Okay. So today I have a pretty full agenda. Um, there are a lot of tricks and tips for Windows 10, and I just picked some of my favorites. Certainly, it's not a um, complete list of things because Windows 10 has so much in it. They've really jam-packed it with all kinds of features and capabilities, and there's no way I can get to all of them even in a day or 2 days worth of talks. It's really big. So I just picked some of my favorites, some things that I think will help you out and help you utilize Windows 10 a little bit better. So this is the agenda, and we might as well jump into it instead of waste time on the agenda. Just a quick little bit about me. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Omicron Development. I'm also the vice chair of the Princeton section of the IEEE. And I'm also the former chair of the IEEE Computer Society chapter here in the Princeton area, as well as the past chair of the Princeton chapter of the ACM. I'm also the chair of the TCF IT Professional Conference, which we ran yesterday. It's generally run the day before TCF. And it's intended for IT professionals. And I've been working in computing for over 30 years. So just a brief intro, and let's get started. Modifying the taskbar. There are a few things about the Windows taskbar that I really don't like. First of all, there's that area of the taskbar that's taking up real estate that has the search window. But if you want, you can actually get rid of the search window. And as soon as you hit the start button, you just start typing and you can do the search anyway. So why do you need that window there? So it's actually very easy to get rid of. All you do is you right mouse click and you'll see on the start menu. I don't know how well this is going to work from here. Let me stop this. If I go here, notice up here, show search button, search window. It's not showing it to me on this desktop because I've got two monitors there. Each monitor shows something a little different, and this second monitor isn't showing the options that are there. But let me switch what well, in any case, it will be up in here. You'll see a little drop thing that comes out here, and you can actually tell it to not show it. Because if I type here and I just start saying, I want this, whatever, notice it does the search anyway. What do I need that search bar? I don't have to click the search bar. I just hit the start and it works just fine. So that's the first thing. The other thing is there's also a task view. For those of you that don't know, Windows supports multiple virtual desktops. So I can actually open up multiple applications and I have one desktop where all of the icons show up, or all of them show up, and another one where a bunch of different windows show up. And that can be really useful. I just find myself not using it that much. So as a result, what I end up doing is I get rid of the task view. Let me see if I can show you the task view. This show task view. No, it does, again, I'm stuck because it's on the second one. Show the task view button. Okay, here's the task view button right here. And this allows me then to show all my various virtual desktops. But I can just turn it off and it just takes up less real estate. For whatever reason, they decided to have it on as the default setting. My own personal preference is to turn it off. All right, let's continue. All right. The next thing is you can customize your start menu. One of the things that you can do is, first of all, you can resize the window. Let's do that. If we go up here and notice, if I grab here, I can widen it. So now I don't have to scroll as much because what used to be down here is moved over. Notice if I go back here, See, here's all my Visual Studio, right? If I go over here now, whoop, so now it's over here. So it's very easy to actually make it a little bit wider and make it a little bit easier to work with so that you don't have as much to scroll through. So I like to kind of size it to what fits my environment. Um, each of the tiles also allow you to change the size. In case you didn't notice, when I hit the start here, I can go to this tile and I can change it, resize, and notice small or medium. This particular one only allows these two. If I go to this one, resize, small, medium, wide, and large. Wide makes it even wider, whereas the large is what I've got now. It'll only work with what are called live tiles. Notice most of these are just static images, right? They're just the icons. Whereas here, you see how the weather, it's nice to have it bigger because I can actually get information from it. So I don't even have to open the weather app. I can just look at it and see what's going on. Here I can see kind of headlights for sports, headlights for money, headlines for news. So it's really nice. I don't actually have to open it up to actually get some of the information out of it. But if I make it any smaller uh, than a large, if I make it medium or small, then you won't be able to see it. Okay. So just rearrange them and make them here. Here, notice I have a lot of browsers because I like to test my applications in different browsers. So of course I've got Internet Explorer, Edge, Chrome, Firefox, and then we've got Opera, Brave, and Vivaldi. And you probably haven't heard of some of those browsers, but they're free browsers you can install on your machine. But rather than having large icons for them, I think just having these small ones here is very convenient, so I can get to any one of my browsers very easily. So I recommend, messing around with the size of the icons to allow you to compact your menu structure a little bit, make it a little bit easier. You can rearrange the tiles by just dragging them around. You just drag them into where you want them to be, and they stay there. So just because that's where it originally showed up doesn't mean that's where you have to keep them. You can also personalize the color of the background. So when let me do it again. This background color is adjustable, and notice if you look carefully, my tiles are right now opaque. But if I go into settings, and personalization, I can choose to, right now, here's the color that I've set for the background color. Or yeah, go into colors here. And I can turn on this transparency effect. If I turn on the transparency effect, come on, there we go. And now I hit the start button. Notice how these are transparent, kind of as they scroll. You can see the background behind them sticks with the background. So you can kind of see through them now. So they're a little bit more transparent. Whichever is your particular favorite. I'm going to turn mine off, and I pick the accent color, and I'm back. Oh, no, wrong color. Come on. There, I'm back. Now I'm back to the way I had it. That's just the color I happen to like. So you can pick whatever color you want for the background very easily by going to colors and selecting the one that you want. One other thing you can do is you can make the start screen, the start menu, a full screen, which is from the Windows 8 days. Windows 8, when you hit start, you have a full screen for your menus. I don't happen to like it. Um, Personally, I like being able to see my screen and my menu at the same time. It provides some context to me. Sometimes I go to click on the start and I'm like, what was I going to do? I forgot what I was going to do. And having the rest of the screen on there kind of reminds me. Maybe it's just me getting old, but it makes it a lot easier not having it full screen. So again, that's in the settings. You just go to settings, personalize, and then menu. So let's do that. Uh, Settings, personalization, and then we go to start. And here, use start, use start full screen. All you do is you hit this on. Now, see my start screen takes up the whole page, but I can't see anything else except the start screen, and I don't happen to like that. So when I turn that off, okay, now I can see, okay, I was talking about the start screen, so I can see, oh, that's what I was talking about, and now I know where I'm heading with this. Because otherwise, I tend to have this short-term memory problem. Okay, so that's the start menu. Um, File extensions. File extensions are really important. The way that Windows knows what application to run for what file is through the file extensions. Every file has a file extensions. So first of all, I find it very useful to know what extension a file has. And if I start up Windows Explorer, let me do that. Okay, here's Windows Explorer. And first of all, notice this is how it normally looks. But if you click here, this drops down and you have a bunch of options, plus you have view. So you've got these ribbons, all right? And the problem is every time you restart it, it looks like this. So first, what I like to do is click down here and you go here, see this little push pin, hit the push pin. Now it'll always show you the ribbon so that you don't have to do it. Now under view, I like to show file name and extension. So let's go here, let's go into the temp directory. Okay, so you see in the temp directory, not only do I see the file names, but I see their extensions. You see these are PDFs, this is a .doc, this is a .sql, .log, and so on. Whereas if I don't have that checked, you don't see that. So sometimes it might be hard to understand the difference between a couple of files. In fact, you might have two files that look like they're the same name, but they just have different extensions. So turning on file extensions really helps. I also like to turn on hidden items. One of the main reasons that I like to do that is if you go to the C drive, let me go back to the root of the C drive. One of the places where Windows likes to store and applications like to store data is in an area called program data. And then under program data, each application or vendor will have his own folder. And in there, you have all kinds of information. So like I have a Brother printer, and the printer keeps all of its information down in here. Whereas here, Microsoft, you see Microsoft has all of its applications, keep its data down in here. So having that is really convenient. But the problem is, see, I see program data here. Let me uncheck hidden items. And notice it doesn't show up because by default, the program data folder is a hidden folder. Well, why is it hidden when that's where all my data is? I can't get to my data because I don't know where it is. So by having the hidden unchecked, now I can see my program data, and it's really easy to go in and deal with some of my data. So that's why I like to have hidden. And then the file extensions, of course, will show me the extensions. Okay. So pin the ribbon, open, show hidden, show file extensions. And then you can, of course, change the view. So you can look at it using tiles, small icons, medium icons, large icons, and details, and so on. So in the Windows Explorer, it allows you to look at the files in different ways, which is very convenient. And in fact, it'll remember the setting on a folder by folder basis. So maybe some folders, for example, if you go into your pictures folder, you prefer to show icons because the icons are the pictures. Whereas if you're going into another data folder where they're just standard files, showing them as icons really doesn't give you anything. You know, having the titles or maybe having details right over here, details where it has the file size and all of that other information is a lot more convenient. So as a result, on a folder by folder basis, you can control what format the Windows folder, the Windows Explorer will show you the files. Now, one of the other problems that you'll often run into is what version of Windows are you running? And you say, well, I'm running Windows 10. Well, Windows 10 isn't a version. And in fact, you can see here right now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 versions of Windows 10. And these are actually different versions of Windows. Each one of them is a rebuild. So the idea is that Microsoft said, rather than keep going, Windows 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, we're stopping at 10, and then we're just going to do updates to 10. So initially, when Windows 10 first came out, it was version 1507. Today, the most recent one out is 20H2. They're going to have a 2021 version out soon. That'll have another version number. So how do you know what the version is? The version is going to be, you find it by running WinVer. And let me show you how to run WinVer. All you do is you hit the start button and you type WinVer. Remember how I told you just start typing? Let me do it again, right? If I just start typing, I don't have to do the search, and notice it finds WinVer. You start it. And of course, it pops up on a different screen here. Here we are. There it is. So I'm running version 20H2. So I've got the latest version. And notice it's even got the build number. And sometimes Microsoft will indicate something based on build number rather than version. Okay, and each build number, of course, is unique, but it'll match the, there's a one-to-one between the version and the build. All right, so that's WinVer. All right, desktop icons. One of the things I personally like to have is I like to have the computer and network on my desktop. And by default, only the recycle bin is shown on the desktop. If you don't want the recycle bin, you can turn it off. So what you do is you do to go to settings, select personalization, themes, and then desktop icon settings. All right, so let's actually do that. So we're going to go settings, personalization, themes, desktop icon settings. And here it is. So to show the computer and show the network. Now, of course, it only, if you have multiple monitors, I'm running multiple monitors and I'm showing you my second monitor. You won't see them because they're over on my first monitor. But I can turn them on and off from here. And that's very convenient because from computer and network, by right mouse clicking, I get some options that are very convenient to me. For example, a lot of times I want to check some of my network settings. To check the network settings is very convenient. having that network icon up there, I just right mouse click on something that looks like this. It's going to be up on my top left and go to properties, and it shows it to me. So it's very convenient for me. Okay. So that's setting the desktop icons. Okay, settings versus control panel. All right, first of all, let me stop for a sec and notice when I go here, click here, that's settings. If you remember, older versions of Windows had something called control panel. Now, one of the things that's common between settings and control panel is being able to remove applications. So if I go to settings and apps, there it is. It just took it a minute. Okay, so here are apps and features, and these are the apps that are installed, and I can uninstall them. But I also have, if I type control, notice it does a search and finds control panel. There is a control panel also, and control panel is different than settings. Here it popped up, and here's my old programs and features. Right? Programs and features, there it is. So now I prefer this view on the right versus this view on the left. So these are in essence the same application, except one's in settings and one's in control panel. And you can see it's still scanning. This, I think, gives you a more detailed list of what's here. This is trying to make it kind of simplistic to me, and I much prefer having this much longer list with more information, size, date, version, has all of that nice information in it. This doesn't have quite as much in it. But you can use this to remove apps. It works perfectly fine, or you can use this. So the real question is, what's the difference between settings and control panel? So settings is really the go-to tool for typical settings. So 80 or 90% of the settings that you're going to want to have, you just use settings. Control panel is really reserved for the more complex settings. So it gives you more detail, it gives you more control. It's a little bit more sophisticated, and it might mean that you might not understand it as easily as you would the settings. So if there's something you want to do, try it in settings first. If you can't find it there, then you go to control panel. So control panel is really meant for the more complex settings. There are a lot of ways to get to settings. They make it really easy. But to get to control panel, it's kind of hidden. You just have to do a search for it, which isn't that big a deal. But if you can do something in settings, go ahead and do it. Otherwise, go to control panel. So let's, once again, real fast, just to show you, control panel or settings is right there. In addition, yeah, I don't have it. I can't show it to you because it's on the first screen. On the first screen, you've got your notification center, and the notification center has a button to open up settings as well. But if you want to get to control panel, you have to do a search. So I hit the start and type control, and there it is, control panel. So it's really easy to get to. And notice when I do a search for control panel, it also shows me my settings app. So they're trying to push you towards settings a little bit, but I keep resisting it. I happen to like control panel better. And by the way, settings is also very interesting in that you can only have one instance of settings open at a time, which is really interesting because if I open up settings, let's say I open it up to devices. Okay, so now I'm doing something in here, and right in the middle of doing something here, I realize, oh, I want to look at something else that's in settings. So I I I go into here, go to settings, and I want to go to uh, well, if I open up try to open up settings in a different area, it will take me away from that in this, because there will only be one instance of this going. So what ends up happening is a lot of times I'm doing an update. So I see the status of the update, and then I say, oh, let me go take a look at something else. It takes me away from the update. Now the update is still happening because it happens in the background, but I have to actually go back to the updates to actually look at it. It takes me away from there because it can only have one instance open at any given time. Okay, so that's settings and control panel. Next thing is user account control. To get to user account control, you have to go through control panel. Settings doesn't have it, so you do a search for control panel. Open up the control panel and click on change user account control settings. All right. In order to do that, uh, you have to be an administrator. So what happens is control panel, user accounts, user account control settings. And it opens up over here. Okay, so mine is all the way down at the bottom, which says never notify. The default is up here, which is notify me only when apps try to change my default. And what will happen is if you want to change the user control settings, you have to be an administrator. So what will happen is even if I had this set and I opened up this and I clicked here, it would pop up a window that says, oh, you want to go to administrative account, and you have to say yes or no. All right. Now the idea of the user account control is any changes to the computer, for example, installing new software, deleting software, making changes to the computer, all of that requires administrative privilege. Now, even if you are personally an administrator of the machine, if this thing is up here or higher, it will stop and say, are you sure you want to allow an administrative function to occur? Whereas if I put it down here to never notify, then it'll just work and I don't have to worry about anything. Well, the type of work that I do, I'm always going in and out of administrative functions, and to me, it's a real pain having to wait for it. On the other hand, if you have people that are using your computer that are not necessarily real tech savvy and may do damage, or they open up an email that then tries to infect your computer, then having this up here will at least say, hey, I'm going to try to do something administrative. And wait a minute, I'm just opening up an email. That shouldn't do anything administrative. Something's wrong there. And you can say no, and it won't let it happen. So I recommend for the majority of the people to leave it where it's at. But if you're the only person using the machine and you know what you're doing and you're very careful about what emails you open and so on, then that's fine. But this provides a nice level of security to keep from unexpected changes to your computer from happening. Okay, the notification center and quick actions. Uh, there is a little icon down at the bottom right of your screen that looks like this. And when you click on it, you get is a menu of this sort, and it goes up the entire right-hand side. I can't show it to you on this machine right now, again, because it only does it on window 1 and I'm on window 2. In any case, all of these little buttons are available to you, which is very convenient because, for example, network allows me to connect or disconnect from a Wi-Fi network. I can put the machine into airplane mode or um, open up a VPN very quickly because it's here. And notice here's the all settings. That opens up the settings app. So it's a very convenient place to get things. And you can change what's in there. And notice there's this collapse button where it'll collapse all except for one line of it so that the others don't show up. And then when it's collapsed, this will change to expand, so you can click on it and re-expand it. So you can collapse or expand it. And you can also add or remove things from this menu by just right mouse clicking, and you'll see add or remove. So I find this area very convenient to have because it's always available. You know, this icon is always down at the bottom right corner, so it's always in the same spot. It just makes it very convenient to get to. It also contains the notifications above here. Will be any of your notifications that come up. The notifications can be very convenient, or they can also be a little bit annoying if you get too many notifications. And I'll get into that in a little bit. A little trick for viewing or hiding desktop icons. I know a lot of people put a lot of icons on their desktop. I don't tend to do that, but some people do, and there will be like 50 icons on the person's desktop, and it's like, how do you remember where to look for that stuff? But in any case, what you're able to do is if you right mouse click on the desktop, go to View, and then Show Desktop Items, you can uncheck it, and all of a sudden, all those icons disappear. Now, they're really not gone because you can right mouse click, hit View, and go down and click on Desktop Icons again, and it'll toggle it back, and all of a sudden, they'll all show up again. So it's really good for temporarily getting rid of them, because I know the reason you put them on the desktop is that's where you want to find them. But sometimes you want to kind of clean up your desktop. Maybe you're giving a demo or you're showing something. Very convenient. Let me see if I can. I'm going to just for show, I'm going to put an icon here so that you can see. And I'm going to go View, Desktop Icons. It's gone. And all the other icons on my desktop are gone as well. If I go View, Desktop Icons, there, it's back again. Okay. Oh, come on. Okay. So I find this very useful every now and then, especially, you know, if I only have one screen. Here I've got two screens, so I don't have any icons on my second screen, so I didn't have a need for it. But if I've got lots of icons on my desktop, it's very convenient because I can just turn them off for this demo and then turn them back on when I'm all done. Now, there's also something called a quick access menu. And here's what it looks like. You know, you've got, notice apps and features that'll automatically open up that add and remove applications, mobility center, power options. It's got a lot of very convenient capabilities right here in its own menu. And all you have to do is right click on the start button to get to it. Very easy. So instead of normally you left click, right, to get here, if I right click, there it is. So it gives you a quick access, like here, to sign off. I can shut down my computer, whatever. So it's a convenient little extra menu that you have available to you. Not highly extensible, but it has a lot of very convenient things in it. Okay, got to keep up the pace if we're going to have time for Q&A. Okay, have you ever wanted to create a self-extracting archive? In other words, you want to take a bunch of files, put them into an archive, and make that archive an executable. So when you run it, it'll allow the user to just run it and extract all of those files and put them into whatever folder they want. Well, as it turns out, Windows has one built in that nobody ever talks about. It's called iExpress. And all you do is you just run iexpress.exe. Well, how do you run it? It's not in the Windows menu system. So you do a search for it. So let me do that. Let me go iExpress. Okay, so there's iExpress. So I run that. Of course, it pops up on my other screen. Here it is. So now I can create a new self-extracting file, or I can open up an existing one. And then it walks me through this. I can tell it, oh, extract files and run a command when it's done, or just extract the files. So it's a very convenient utility. It'll walk you through a wizard, and you don't have to buy any third-party software. I used to always buy, the WinZip self-extractor, and you don't have to. It's just built into Windows. It's very convenient. Windows Fast Boot. By default, Windows turns on something called Fast Boot. The idea is it provides a faster boot time. Well, sort of. It's kind of a hybrid mode between sleep or hibernation and a full shutdown. So what happens is when Fast Boot is enabled and you shut your computer down, yeah, the computer does turn off, but it really goes into more a sleep or hibernation kind of a mode. So that what happens is when you turn it back on again, it doesn't have as much to do to boot up. So it boots much faster. That's really convenient. The downside is a lot of things don't work right with it. For example, let's say I have particular services that I only start up every now and then. Windows services, right? So I start up a service and I shut my machine down, and normally that would shut down the service. And since the service isn't set for automatic, when I boot up again, that service should not be running. Yet when I turn it on with Fast Boot, it is running again. Why? Because it never really shut Windows down. It just kind of put it into a hibernation mode. Also, one of the things I like about shutting down Windows is it starts everything from scratch. It's a clean boot. When I'm in the fast boot mode, since I never really fully shut down, then when I start it back up, it's not really a full clean reboot. So I just don't care for that too much. So I like to turn off the fast boot. It also it has a difficulty with Wake on LAN and a multi-operating system boot. Because it's in essence a hibernation state, when you reboot, it doesn't give you the option of other operating systems. So if I have a Linux and a Windows partition, it doesn't give me that option, which is kind of annoying. And the Wake on LAN just doesn't seem to work quite right with it. So I prefer to turn off the fast boot. So how do you do it? It's really obvious. I don't know why they came up with this, but you go to the power options and you click on the what power buttons do. So what does it have to do with the power buttons? Well, okay, it has to do with turning on and turning off. But in any case, you go and you change the settings that are not currently available and you turn on or off fast boot. All right. So that's really how you do it. It's pretty simple. I recommend turning off fast boot. That way, every time you reboot, it starts. And quite honestly, Windows 10 boots so fast. I know on my computer, it boots in between 10 and 15 seconds. And you know what? 15 seconds is plenty short. That, you know, if I don't have the patience for it to boot, then something's more wrong with me than my computer. So I recommend highly that you turn off your fast boot. All right, every now and then you have problems where updates won't install, or you have some corruptions in your operating system, and Windows just doesn't seem to be working right. So one of the things you can do is run the SFC program. Again, it's not listed in the menu. You have to type the search SFC, and then execute it. And what it will do is, if you, or what's better is, you go to command prompt. And in fact, you should go to administrative command prompt, which means go to command, and let's do that. If I go here, I want to do a command prompt, and right mouse click, and you go into an administrative command prompt. There's my administrative command prompt. And from there, execute the SFC program with a command line parameter. So the command line parameter is where'd it go? Oh, here it is. SFC/scan now. Okay, and there's actually, I gave you a hyperlink here that has more information from Microsoft on the SFC command. It will take a while to execute, so I'm not going to demo it now. But the idea is that it will actually go through and make sure that all of the operating system files and so on are not corrupt, and everything's in place and where it's supposed to be. And it can often fix some of the problems with installing updates or other issues with Windows. So I recommend checking that out when you have a chance. Another thing that I'd like to use is, I like the peek to preview on the desktop. If you go to settings, personalization, and taskbar, and you turn on the use to peek preview for the desktop, it'll allow you to hover over other applications. Let me see if it works on the second screen. Okay, so you see here, if I hover, yeah, it doesn't work on the second screen. It only works on the first screen. The idea is, if I hover over this, and then I just hit here on the main screen, it'll make all other screens invisible, and it'll just show me that screen. So without actually switching to the screen, I can actually see what's on that screen, which is very convenient. I find it convenient because then I don't have to actually switch off of it. I can take a quick look, peek at what it is. And if I want to go to it, I just click on it. And when I do, it will bring me to that screen. So that can be very convenient. And it looks like I've got about 11 minutes left, so I better move it.
Yep. Cool.
Okay. There's something called Focus Assistant. Again, you go to Settings, System, and now Focus Assistant, and you can change what notifications are made. Otherwise, they go to the notifications page. So what's nice is the notifications pane won't open by itself. You have to go open it. So if you're really busy doing something and you don't want to be bothered, you want notifications to go into the pane so you can check them out later, because they're important, but they're not important right this minute. So the idea is, if you turn on the Focus Assistant, by default, I think it's off. If you turn it on, then you'll get less notifications when you're working, and you'll be able to just go check the pane at your convenience. Windows actually has a pretty good dictation or speech recognition software, and it's off by default. You can turn on the speech recognition very easily and press the Windows H, hold down the Windows key and the H key, and it'll allow you to speak into the computer as if you're typing. So whichever app you're in, if you open up Notepad or Word, and then you hit Windows key H, then you just talk and it'll type the text right into that application, whatever application you happen to be in. So it's kind of neat. Units conversion and date calculation. The calculator is actually very powerful. It has a lot of different modes in it that aren't really obvious. So if you open up the calculator, you can select any of these converters. Notice they've got currency, mass, area, speed, temperature. It even has time zone calculations in dollar or currency. Think about the currency. The currency is constantly changing, yet it'll handle the current currency exchange. So if you want to do dollars to euros, it's got it built into it, which is really kind of neat. You know, I used to always go to a website for all of that. Well, I've got it kind of built into my calculator. So I just find it faster and more convenient to use that. It also does some date calculations. So it'll give me the days between dates, or it can add or subtract days from a date and give me another date. Very convenient, very easy to use. These are a lot of things I used to go to websites for, and now I just say, you know what, use the calculator. It's right there. I don't have to worry about it. Alarms and clock. It'll tell you the time difference and current time anywhere in the world. So it does, you know, so you want to know the time in Malaysia, and no problem. You put in Malaysia and it'll show you the time there. So it does and it'll tell you how many hours difference it is. It'll tell you what it is from UTC or GMT. There's a stopwatch function built into it. There's an alarm function. Of course, the alarm will only work when the PC is on. If you've shut down the PC, you won't see the alarm. And it also has a countdown timer. So it's kind of a convenient little application that's just built into Windows. And the last thing to look out for is Edge. Make sure to take a look at the latest version of Edge. Edge is a modern browser, and it's based on Chromium, which is the same code base used by Chrome. Of course, Chromium, Chrome. It's actually from Google, but it's based on that. But then they've added extensions to it. So I know I had moved from Internet Explorer to Chrome. Now I've moved from Chrome to Edge. I really like Edge. I think Edge has a lot of nice capabilities. I still keep Chrome on my desktop. But it also has one thing Chrome doesn't have, which I really like, is some legacy sites still only work with Internet Explorer. I mean, you know, it's really a pain, but they're old sites and that's how it is. Well, Edge has an Internet Explorer emulation, so you can go to those sites and it'll work. So it's kind of neat. It's a pretty nice thing. It has some very good privacy settings. I recommend the balanced setting. I think that's sufficient. And it just has a ton of really great configuration capabilities. One of the other things is you can have the tabs along the top, or you can have them along the left-hand side. So by just switching pretty simply. Let me see if I can get Edge up and running here. Yeah, here's Edge, and yeah, here we are. And you see here this little button. Look at that. Now I've got them here. These are my tabs, right? Or I click on it back here and I'm back to the horizontal tabs that you're used to. So it's kind of nice. So I've given you a few sites that have some pretty good articles about some tricks and tips for Windows 10. I stole some of the ideas from some of them. Others I didn't even get into. There's a lot of them. I found a lot of other sites that also have tricks and tips that I just didn't like. So this is kind of a narrowed down thing. So what I've done is I'm going to be putting the presentation up at this location. You'll see all of my TCF presentations from there going back, 10 years or more. But this one will be here. It'll have the year on it, so you'll know which one this one is, in case you want to download it and use it for reference. So now we've got, what, 3 or 4 minutes for question and answer if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes. So if anybody, there was some in the chat, so I don't know if you can read them or if you want.
Yeah,
There was one. Should I turn off my computer every night, or is it okay to leave it on all the time?
Windows has gotten pretty good about leaving it on. I prefer to turn it off. There's a notion in computer science that basically says stability is directly based on the length of time the system has been on. And that tends to be true. So I have a preference of turning it off, especially since Windows 10 starts so fast. So you might as well just turn it off. It doesn't hurt to leave it on. You want to leave it on. There are times where I have stuff that's going on and I'll leave mine on for a week or more. Certainly my servers I leave on all the time, which are on the same code base as Windows 10. Windows Server 2016 and Windows Server 2019 are both based on Windows 10 code. And those will stay on for months at a time. So it's more based on the applications that you're running and what you're doing with it. I just find that Windows will crash at the most inconvenient time. So if you want to avoid it from crashing, reboot it each night. That's all. Okay.
Yeah. And there was one more, I think.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't see the.
It says, can you go over the Windows speech to text item again?
The what?
Or a text to speech.
Text to speech. Yeah, it's the Windows key and H is what you have to hit. That's it. And what it'll do is it's as if you were typing on the keyboard. So it will put the text that you speak into whatever application happens to be active, just like the keyboard. So your speech becomes the keyboard.
Sounds good. I don't know if anybody else has questions, they can type in chat, or I think everybody can unmute themselves and talk also. So we have 2 more minutes left, so we have time for one more.
I have a question on how to get rid of file permissions that I'm not allowed to access a file.
That's a very common.
Very complicated. I'd like to turn off all the restrictions because I'm the only one using the computer.
Yeah, very common problem. Let me show you. Well, typically, what happens is I'll open up on a file. Let me pick a file by. Okay, so here's a file. I'm going to right mouse click and you go properties. Now, what ends up happening is if you go to security, it might not have you in here and you have to add yourself, but you say, well, I can't get it. So what you have to do is you have to give yourself ownership of it.
Okay.
So if you go to advanced owner, you have to hit change owner to yourself, and then you'll have rights to give yourself rights. Okay. So that's kind of the trick behind it. What I recommend is doing it on a folder basis and having it. Notice under advanced, one of the options is enable inheritance, and also when you make changes, there will be another button that opens up that says do it for all of the files inside here. This is not a folder, so let me go up to the folder.
Well, you're saying set permissions at the folder level.
Yeah, if you do it at the folder level, right, security, go to advanced, and you see this checkbox. replace all child with these permissions. So you can make the change.
Can you show your screen? Can you
Oh,
share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was. I'm sorry about that. Let me, yes. Share screen 2. Okay. Yeah, here we are. All right, let me do it again. Here's temp. Go to properties, security, advanced. Up here, change owner. Okay. Then give yourself rights in here after you've changed owner and replace all child permissions. So it'll do everything in there and go and work its way down.
Because the thing that confused me was this inheritance business.
Yeah, inheritance means inherent from whatever its parent is. So if its parent is another folder, then it's whatever that folder is. And typically what happens is there's inheritance and then polymorphism. In other words, inherit whatever the parent is, but then add these other security features to it.
Okay.
Okay, so you can turn off inheritance completely, or you can turn it on and then you can just modify it. So inheritance is not a bad thing. But that's what disable inheritance is right now, everything under it is going to inherit whatever this one has, which is very convenient to me from a folder vantage point, because I don't want to have to be playing with it on a file by file basis.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
But you might want a single file that's has odd security. There you
Yeah.
disable it.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all the time we have left. Thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody joining. You know, we had a pretty good crowd here, I think. Yeah, 70.